Good evening, everyone. This is Dari on WorldStreams Radio. Thank you to our listeners from all around the world for joining us tonight. And thank you to those of you with us on paltalk.com. Our guest tonight is vocalist Monika Jalili. Born in the United States, Monika is of Dutch and German descent. She studied music at the Manhattan School of Music, a classically trained vocalist. She sings in Persian, French, and English languages. Her works are based on Persian folk songs and Persian traditional music, but are naturally infused with her Western music training. Monika actively pursued a musical theater career in New York and appeared with such talents as Steve Allen and John Astin until her passion for songs of Iran led her in 2004 to create a project called Nur Saz. For a talented group of Iranian poets and composers enjoying fame, the Iranian Revolution of 1979 extinguished their hopes and dreams and careers, and we'll never know what could have been, but Monika has worked endlessly to revive the touching works of these artists. She's performed with her ensemble at such venues as the Kennedy Center and Lincoln Center in New York, and many places in European cities. Hello there, Nader, and welcome, Monika. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dari, and thank you for pulling all of this together, Dari. We're all indebted to you. And thank you, Monika, for being here. Monika, I was just going to maybe start with this piece, if you could give us a little background and inspiration, and perhaps we can delve into. We're going to actually play the full piece and get a better feel for it. But if you could kindly give us a little introduction, that would be great.
Which piece are we talking about?
The one we just played.
The one we just played. So that was the prelude to a piece called Ayrılık, which is actually a song from Azerbaijan, and it's actually sung in the Azeri language. And this is it's a very sad song, although a very, very beautiful song. And it's about separation. Ayrılık means separation, actually, and it's about being separated from one's love.
Yes. And what inspired this, and what's the history behind this song? Because Dari mentioned something about, and I searched, and I was hoping to get more sort of insight into this, about songs and poems that were written and artists and work that was done in the 70s, and where the revolution kind of aborted, and the history and society took a different turn. I was just wondering, is this one of those, and what's the history behind this song, or behind this? Yes.
To tell you the truth, I don't know the history behind this song. For the longest time, I thought this was a very old folk song, and I didn't think there would be any known composer or lyricist that I could put to it. But then all of a sudden, last year when I was working on this album, I decided to just do a little bit more research on the internet again, and all of a sudden I came up and I actually found a composer and a lyricist. The composer is Ali Salimi, and the Azeri lyrics were written by Farhad Ibrahimi. But beyond that, I don't. It's a very, very famous song, and it's been made famous by some Azeri singers like Rashid Behbudov, but it's also been made famous by some Iranian singers like Gugush, and it's just a very, very beautiful, very touching song, and it's a song where you can really feel the emotion in the piece, the way it was written. I had nothing to do with it.
So, what made you choose this one? Was it just the sound? Could you just, and then Dari will play it for us. And
Actually, when I got introduced to Iranian music, this was one of the first couple of songs that I was introduced to. I was invited to sing at a Nowruz concert, and Nowruz is the Persian New Year in New York, in Long Island, a few years back, before I formed my ensemble. And the musician who had invited me to come, he knew I didn't know any of these songs, and he knew at the time I didn't speak Persian or anything, but he decided to do a concert of folk songs where each song was from a different region of Iran, and thus each song was in a different dialect. And this was the Azeri piece that he had selected, and I held on to it.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So tell me, you said something about not knowing Persian and Farsi, and obviously this is Azeri, so it's a different dialect or language altogether. Your last name is an Iranian name, so I'm just wondering, what was your introduction? Obviously married and to an Iranian family and so forth, but what's your background and how did you? I mean, I think the audience would be very interested in learning about that.
Sure. I was already married at the time when I was introduced to Iranian music, and as Dari had mentioned in the intro, I was very much into musical theater, and that's what I was doing. I was performing in musicals and touring around the U.S. with them and doing a lot of off-Broadway stuff, and the very beginning of it began when I met this musician, an Iranian musician in New York, and I met him just by chance. I was at a friend's house for dinner, and she was Iranian, and she was just finishing up her santur lesson, and the teacher was there, and my friend said, oh, you know, Monika's a singer, she does theater. He said, oh, really? Oh, sing me something. And so I sang him a song, and then about a month later he phoned me up and said, do you remember me? I'm your friend's santur teacher, and I'm putting together this concert for Nowruz, for the Persian New Year. I really like your singing, and would you be open to me teaching you some songs? And that's pretty much what happened. It was a very challenging concert for me because I did not know the language and because I was so unfamiliar with the music and the style and the poetry and the rhythm. I would say it was not my best concert, but it was, okay for a first one. And then a few months later, I went to Brussels to visit my father-in-law, who's Iranian, and he knew I was starting to sing some of these Persian folk songs. And I got in the car just when we arrived at the airport, and he said, I'm going to play you this song. And he had this very old cassette tape, and he put it into the cassette player in the car. And he said, I think you're really going to like this song. And the song was a song called Jani Maryam, which means My Sweet Maryam, and it was sung by a singer, Mohammed Nouri. And I never heard anything quite like it before. I never heard, for the first part, I never heard such a sweet, sweet male voice. It was just so beautiful, so sweet. And then the music was it was absolutely beautiful. I didn't know what it meant, but my father-in-law began to tell me what it was about. And I said,